Hi everyone, it's Brett from Hope to Prosper. Thanks for coming along on my tour of New England. I flew into Syracuse to meet up with my buddy Rob, who knows the area well, and he agreed to be the navigator and photographer on the tour. Day one, we drove around upstate New York and visited some of the local places. I was itching to get to New England, but now I have to wait until day two. Our first stop was the Baseball Hall of Fame, which was a 90-minute drive from Syracuse. Cooperstown is a picturesque little town, and we could see Lake Otsego over on the left. This is the Susquehanna River, and it flows into Lake Otsego. It was a perfect day for the cloud and the sun, and the reflections off the river were really pretty. Been a baseball fan my whole life, and the Hall of Fame didn't disappoint. You could just feel the history in the room with all of the artifacts and exhibits. I had Angels season tickets for 10 years, so Rob and I have been to a lot of Angels games over the years. Out of everything in the Hall of Fame, I think I like the plaque room the best. I spent a lot of time just looking at the inductees and the years they were inducted. It was quite an experience. We stopped over at Doubleday Field to catch a game, then cruised around downtown looking for souvenirs. We got thirsty, so we stopped by Cooperstown Distillery. The beer and the atmosphere were great, but I thought the whiskey was mediocre. On the way back home to Syracuse, we stopped by Chintenango Falls. It's a great little park to take a break and take in the beauty of the falls. The view from the top of the falls was great. You had to hike down a steep trail for about a half mile to get to the bottom, and that's where the real fun is. Day two, and we're finally headed to New England, and our first destination, Burlington, Vermont. We hit all 6 states, 16 cities, and a national park in New England. So as I promised, this is a full tour. Takes like 8, 10-second videos in. I just thought that was a pretty river.
Yeah, it was pretty.
After a long day of driving, we made it to our first destination, Burlington, Vermont. And we stopped by Foam Brewers to get a beer, and then we headed down to Waterfront Park. next stop was Church Street Marketplace, and unfortunately it was pouring, so it was pretty much abandoned. Day 3, we're headed to Maine. First we stopped by Montpelier, the capital of Vermont. It was a beautiful little town, and we got breakfast at the Skinny Pancake. We drove through New Hampshire just about a month before peak fall, but the colors were just starting to turn. After a long day of driving, we finally made it to Maine, and our first stop was Bar Harbor. We checked out the little downtown village, and of course, on the agenda was a lobster dinner. We stopped at Steuman's on the water to get a lobster roll and a lobster bisque. The view was awesome, and we just loved Bar Harbor. We spent the night at the Belle Isle Motel and had breakfast at the Cafe This Way in Bar Harbor. Next stop, Acadia National Park. Even though it was off-season, Acadia National Park was still pretty packed. Parking was crazy, and you needed a permit to get up to Cadillac Mountain. So we had to skip that, and we started off on foot. Luckily, the tour bus picked us up and drove us around. It was a beautiful experience, but I wish I could have hiked more. This is Sand Beach, and it kind of reminded me of back home in California. We left Acadia National Park and headed to Portland, Maine. What a beautiful city with everything on the waterfront and all the docks. It was by far my favorite of the whole trip. We ate at DeMillo's, which was on a boat in the middle of the harbor. It had fantastic views of Portland from the water. Rob opted for the salmon, and I ordered the twin lobster dinner. Our stop for the night was Old Orchard Beach, which is about 9 miles south of Portland. We stayed at the Friendship Inn and Suites, right beachfront in Old Orchard Beach. What a beautiful place. I wish I could have stayed here for a week. Day 5, and we're headed for Boston with stops along the coast in Maine. Our first stop was at Cape Elizabeth to see the Portland Headlight. Our next stop was in Kennebunkport, which was very picturesque but also kind of touristy. I still loved it. We ate at Allison's restaurant, where we got the lobster roll and the clam chowder combo. Our final stop in Maine was at Goose Rocks Beach. Rob used to spend summers here with his family, so he was interested to see it. On a whim, I pulled off the freeway to see Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I'm so glad I did. It was a great stop. It's such a pretty little city and so many fun things to do. We spent about an hour and a half here and then headed back on the road to Massachusetts. We arrived in Boston and were greeted with the downpour and the usual rush hour traffic. It took us about 45 minutes just to get through the tunnel into downtown. It's day 6 in Boston, and our agenda for the day is to hike the Freedom Trail. We started out parking in Boston Commons and then went and visited the Boston Public Gardens. What a beautiful place, and the weather was perfect. When heading for the Freedom Trail, we ended up getting lost and walking it backwards. It was still a lot of fun. First stop was the Massachusetts State House. We walked up to the top of the Freedom Trail, up by the old historic North End, and we walked south towards Boston Common. Our second stop on the trail was the Old North Church. This is the area where Paul Revere made his historic ride, and this is Paul Revere's house right here. We stopped at Quincy Market to make a pit stop and buy some t-shirts for souvenirs. Next stop was the Old South Meeting House. We stopped at the King's Chapel Burial Ground. This is one of 3 cemeteries, but this is the only one we stopped and actually visited. It was really interesting. Rob wanted to see the USS Constitution, so we drove up to see it. It's a must-stop on the trail, and you definitely have to stop and get off and get on the boat. It's a free tour, and the people will answer all kinds of questions for you. It's really fantastic. Next, we took the half-mile walk up to the top of Bunker Hill. This is a place where the British were basically decimated trying to crawl up that hill while getting shot at. It was a must-see on the trail as well. We stopped for lunch at the Warren Tavern. This is one of 3 taverns that claim to be the oldest in Boston. The food was fantastic. We had the shepherd's pie and it was delicious. Our next stop on the tour was Providence, Rhode Island. We just pulled off to see the downtown area, and it was definitely beautiful. We stopped at the Providence River Park to check out the river. Those baskets right there are usually filled with fire for the Water Fire Festival. Unfortunately, we were there just a day early and we didn't get to see it. We ate dinner at Cleo's and headed for our destination for the night, Groton, Connecticut. It's day 7 and it's the last day of the tour, and our first stop was at beautiful Mystic, Connecticut. We parked next to Mystic Pizza and headed for the Sif Bakery. That line right there took about a half hour, but it was still worth it. Headed out of town, we drove over the bridge over the Mystic River. This is a mechanical drawbridge that goes up and down every half hour to let the boats through. This is a waterfront view of the Mystic River. I wish we had have more time in Mystic. Next stop on our way home was Hartford, Connecticut. We walked around downtown, but there didn't seem to be much going on, so we jumped back in the car and got back on the road. We stopped in Springfield, Massachusetts to visit the Basketball Hall of Fame. We didn't actually go into the Hall of Fame because we didn't have the time, but just the lobby alone was worth the trip. We bought a t-shirt and we headed back on the road. Last stop on the tour was Albany, New York. We stopped by just to see the downtown area, and the architecture was stunning. Here's the New York State Court of Appeals building, and across the street is Albany City Hall. This is the governor's mansion, and the famous I Love New York sign you have to take a picture with. This is the Ag Performing Arts Center and State University at Albany. And this is Empire Plaza. We hope you enjoyed this tour of New England. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more adventures in the future. Thank you so much.